In August of 1966, on a quiet hillside in Niterói, two men were found lying side by side. They wore identical formal suits. Their bodies showed no signs of violence. No struggle. No wounds. No explanation. But that wasn't the strangest part. Each man had a crude mask made of lead, carefully shaped to cover the eyes. Nearby, investigators found a notebook filled with cryptic instructions, a bottle of water, and 2 towels. The note read like a ritual, or a countdown. 16:30 be at the agreed place. 18:30 ingest capsules. After effect, protect metals. Wait for signal. Mask. No one ever found the capsules. No one ever discovered what signal they were waiting for. And to this day, the mystery of what happened on that hill remains one of the strangest and most unsettling cases in true crime history. This is the story of the lead masks case. The deep storytelling. The victims were identified as Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel José Viana. Both men were in their early 30s, respected in their community, and known for their technical skills. They worked with electronics, radios, and were said to have a deep interest in scientific experimentation. They lived in Campos dos Goitacazes, about 300 kilometers from Niterói. By all accounts, they were ordinary men. Quiet. Intelligent. Curious. But beneath that surface, there was something else. Friends and family later revealed that the two men had a fascination with spiritualism. Not just casual belief, but intense, almost obsessive experimentation. They reportedly participated in strange rituals, attempting to contact extraterrestrial beings or higher dimensions. On August 17, 1966, the men told their families they were traveling to Niterói to purchase electronic equipment. It seemed like a routine trip. Nothing unusual. But their actions that day would quickly raise questions. Before leaving, they stopped at a local store and bought waterproof coats, despite the fact that the weather was warm and clear. Later, in Niterói, they purchased a bottle of mineral water and the 2 towels that would later be found beside their bodies. Witnesses reported seeing them at a bar around 3 p.m. One waitress later recalled that they seemed nervous, constantly checking the time. One of the men appeared anxious, repeatedly looking toward the sky. Then, they disappeared. Days later, on August 20th, a young boy flying a kite stumbled upon their bodies on a hill known as Morro do Vintém. What he saw would shock investigators and puzzle the world for decades. The cold case clues the scene was strange from the very beginning. Both men were lying on their backs, side by side, fully dressed in their suits and raincoats. Their posture suggested they had simply laid down, and never gotten back up. There were no signs of violence. No evidence of a struggle. No external injuries. Their bodies were intact, undisturbed. But then there were the masks. Each man wore a handmade lead mask, carefully cut to fit over the eyes but leaving the rest of the face exposed. The masks looked like something out of a science fiction nightmare, heavy and primitive. Why lead? Lead is known to block radiation. This single detail would ignite decades of speculation. Nearby, police found the notebook. Inside were the now infamous instructions. They were written in Portuguese, but translated, they read like a step-by-step guide to something unknown. Be at the agreed place. Ingest capsules. Protect metals. Wait for signal. Mask. There was no mention of what the capsules contained. No explanation of the signal. No indication of who, or what, they were expecting. Even more disturbing, toxicology tests were inconclusive. Due to the delay in discovering the bodies and the limitations of forensic science at the time, investigators could not determine if the men had ingested any substances. No capsules were found at the scene. No signs of poisoning could be confirmed. It was as if the most important piece of evidence had simply vanished. Then there were the eyewitness accounts. Multiple people claimed to have seen a strange orange light hovering over the hill on the night of August 17th. Some described it as a glowing object that moved silently through the sky. One witness claimed the light landed briefly before shooting back into the air. Coincidence? Or something more? The theories over the years, the lead masks case has given rise to several theories. Some grounded in reality. Others, far more difficult to explain. The first theory is the most logical, a failed scientific experiment. Given their background in electronics and their interest in spiritualism, it's believed that Cruz and Viana may have been attempting to contact extraterrestrial beings or harness some form of energy. The lead masks could have been intended to protect their eyes from radiation or a bright light source. The instructions in the notebook suggest a carefully planned experiment, possibly involving hallucinogenic substances. The missing capsules may have been a drug designed to induce visions or altered states of consciousness. Something went wrong. Either the dosage was fatal or the substances had unintended effects. But this theory has holes. If it was an experiment, why conduct it on a remote hill? Why the secrecy? And why were no traces of the capsules ever found? The second theory points to a suicide pact. Some investigators believe the men willingly took their own lives as part of a ritual. The note could be interpreted as instructions for a ceremonial act, possibly tied to their spiritual beliefs. The lead masks may have symbolized protection during a transition to another plane of existence. But again, there are inconsistencies. There was no suicide note. No clear motive. And those who knew the men insisted they showed no signs of depression or distress. The third theory ventures into criminal territory. Could the men have been victims of foul play? Perhaps they were lured to the hill under false pretenses, given poisoned capsules, and left to die. The masks and note could have been staged to confuse investigators. But if that were the case, why no signs of struggle? Why no evidence of another person at the scene? And what would be the motive? Which brings us to the most chilling theory of all. The paranormal explanation. Some believe Cruz and Viana were attempting to make contact with extraterrestrial beings and succeeded. The eyewitness reports of strange lights, combined with the cryptic instructions and the protective lead masks, suggest something beyond ordinary human understanding. Perhaps they were waiting for a signal, and received it. Perhaps the masks were meant to shield them from an otherworldly force. Or perhaps they were part of something far bigger than anyone realized. Right now, if you're finding this case as disturbing as it is fascinating, take a second to like this video, subscribe to Shadow Files, and share it with someone who loves mysteries. Because stories like this don't just stay in the past, they stay with you. As we continue, the questions only get darker. There's one more detail that makes this case even more unsettling. Investigators discovered that the two men had previously attempted similar experiments. They had reportedly traveled to remote locations before, conducting rituals and documenting their experiences. This wasn't a one-time event. It was part of a pattern. And each time, they seemed to be getting closer to something. But what? Despite extensive investigation, the case was eventually closed without a definitive conclusion. No suspects. No confirmed cause of death. No clear answers. Just two bodies on a hill, a pair of lead masks, and a mystery that refuses to fade. To this day, the lead masks case remains one of the most bizarre unsolved cases in history. Some see it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of obsession. Others see it as proof that there are forces in this world we don't yet understand. But one thing is certain. Whatever happened on that hill in Niterói, it was no ordinary event. And maybe, just maybe, the truth is something we're not ready to face. If you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of person this channel was made for. Don't forget to like, subscribe to Shadow Files, and turn on notifications so you never miss a mystery. Because the next case might be even stranger than this one. And trust me, they only get darker from here.